Extremely proud and extremely happy to introduce this panel. I think the right mix of panel with industry experts or people, veterans in information security and IT space in Kerala IT industry. This panel represents CIO Club, Kerala chapter, which is the apex organization for the IT heads and CIOs from various industries. So everybody sitting here on the panel along with me, our heads are they represent different business domains, has been with the industry for 30 plus years, are heading CIO roles in their respective organizations with vast amount of experience, both from a technology as well as from a people or organization management perspective. Extremely proud and humbled to be part of this panel discussion here as a moderator. The topic that we have today is the leaders that I have on the panel, they have seen how the industries have evolved over these years. They joined the organizations or started their career at a time when digitization was not something which was on the canvas. So they started with their organizations. They have seen how the businesses or the practices have slowly started adopting cyber digitization, the impact that it had when it comes to their respective business operations, and slowly how the businesses have started adopting AI/ML in the past 5 or 6 years, and how slowly the generative AI is creating an impact in their respective space. So I'll quickly introduce the panel members. I have Balakrishnan sir, who is the Executive Director of Georgie. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us. Sreekumar sir, who is the Global IT Head of Suntech Group and also the President of CIO Club Kerala chapter. Jacob sir, who is the Group, who is the General Manager and Head of IT at Manorama. And Sony sir, who is the CISO and Senior Person at South Indian Bank. So they, as we see from their profile, they represent various industries. So Balakrishnan sir will be able to give a lot of insights from a fintech or from a share broking perspective or fintech organization perspective. Sreekumar sir started his career with Indian Oil Corporation. So as I mentioned in my previous introducing myself, so he has got much more experience when it comes to working in different types of organizations. And Jacob sir has been with Manorama for 30 plus years or 35 plus years. He has seen how the organization has evolved over these years and how technology has disrupted the way in which they do their activities and how the technology has brought their lives much more easier, as well as some of the challenges. And Sony sir is very known in the industry, being the pilot runner when it comes to the digitization initiatives of South Indian Bank, one of the most respected banks when it comes to technology adoption. So specific topic that we are talking about now is generative AI and how generative AI is making an impact in their respective industry domains. So as I said, these leaders here have seen how it has evolved over these years. I would start with Balakrishnan sir on your thoughts on how you see, not specific to the industry domain that you are representing, across as a Keralite, as a technocrat, as a business leader, as an entrepreneur to a great extent, how you have seen the technology evolving from the start of your career till now, till we started slowly adopting generative AI into our respective areas.
Thank you, Georgie. Before answering this, one caveat from my side. Georgie, in his previous presentation, said longer duration in one role will be a risk, insider risk. So thanks that my boss is not here. I have been serving in a single role for 2 decades in an organization. Just for an information. Coming back to the topic, see, when I started my career in computing side as a programmer, fundamentally to develop application for automating or just speeding it up the processes. Prior to that, there may be so many things which I don't know much. Even in my field, when I started here, outcry was the system in stock market. Similarly, banking, it was more or less paper-based banking. In all industries, it was like that. So automation was a basic step. It was in the EDP room and taking data in physical format, processing it and giving output. That was actually when I started my career. From there, it was actually rapid change, especially in 90s. And the computing power, that is, and storage, these are two determinants which actually made the changes. Previously, when I started, the maximum in a PC, the capacity of a hard disk was 40 MB. And the floppy disk was 360 KB. Today, even a photograph which you are taking in a mobile phone may be running into megabits. So that kind of a change has happened. Memory was less. I was struggling to store a date in 2 bytes. That was the case when I started the career. Today, you have plenty of storage, very high speed computing, and the bandwidth available, data traffic, that actually made the revolution of computing. Subsequently, when then there are a lot of changes, a lot of application, power went to the, it democratized from the central computing power to the desktop powers. That also you have seen the evolution of Windows and other things. And when I started, it was highly Unix-based applications, very no power at the desktop, and people used to write and again put it in this. Then image processing, scanning, and OCR, so many things, so many technology actually created the computing in a different format. They have come in the recent past. Then finally, then what happened? We created data center. We created stacks of servers, huge storage capacity in our own office. It has become a burden, and then we started co-locating. Then the wonderful name today, cloud and all. Actually, it is all. I remember when we talked about grid computing, etc. Now that is all new acronym, new kind of jargons actually coined. More or less same thing, actually serverless. Without serverless will not work. So serverless is a new jargon coined, and they gave it to Georgie, like a new generation, young, brilliant people gave us a lot of jargon, and which is created another set of revolution. Now this AI, if you look into, the previously what we were doing when we talked about AI, it was data, pattern, and we created certain. I was a Lisp programmer for some time. I thought that was the biggest world. Then that disappeared. Actually, then I won't get salary. That is why I went into commercial programming. So that route actually didn't work out. If I don't know whether I am right or wrong. But then now the new thing, that is larger language models and conversational. I can correlate with my industry again. The 94, 95, that was when National Stock Exchange formed. From the outcry to automate, the dealing terminals started. Then the outcry was a pure conversational. It is a pure conversation. Then it is digitized. Conversation disappeared. And the dealer's job disappeared. New set of people have come. Now what is happening is transaction, we are embedding conversational with the large language model and other things. So this cycle is very interesting. For me, it is very interesting how it is, end of the day, though we are talking about AI and all, we have a natural intelligence. And we have, for example, we often, we don't want to type always. Even today, most of us actually like to read something rather than hearing. So, and I don't know whether it is right, but these are something actually we are now changing with the new generation models. And Gen AI Of course, there are certain element of risk. I am sure that Sony and all will cover that. But at the same time, this is going to make changes. This is going to make significant change in which we consider automation, the process, and the services, etc. That is what I would like to comment.
Thank you so much, sir. Valuable insights from your vast experience. Just one thought or one question. So you have seen changes or transformation at each stage. Was it taken as an excitement or fear by the organization, people?
It depends on the consumer. Actually, both are there. Always there is a fear. Today also, when you talk about a lot of comfort, an element of fear is there, which we are reading now. The Gen AI, it is going to change the world. Along with that, another article coming on you need a regulation, you need controls, otherwise it is going to take away your life and you can encroach into somebody's life. You can, all those things. So fear and excitement both are there. In every aspect it was there. And in fact, this fear and the excitement driving all these changes. So by mitigating the fear, you create excitement. Excitement will create fear.
I think we are seeing the same pattern, but the right pattern as always. Sreekumar sir, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I'll start with where Georgie asked about the fear factor of AI. So about losing jobs and all this kinds of things. So I read somewhere that if your job doesn't require any intelligence, then you don't need to be afraid of artificial intelligence kind of thing. So that's something which I was just starting from there. But let me tell you, I will also touch upon what Balakrishnan sir was mentioning about the human element. He was touching about the human intelligence versus the artificial. I'll just start from there because, see, no systems model, is intuitive. Intuitive means what? What is intuitive? Intuitive is, you have no basis for taking a decision. There is no logic, there is no data available, there is nothing there, but you have some intuition and you take a decision. So that's what about human intelligence. It doesn't even require some data. See, any systems model require tons and tons of data, and all it does is analyzing the data, reasoning it, then taking decision-making models. And if you talk about AI and ML part of it will take into an action on top of the decision that is being taken. So this is that entire chain, but in none of this intuitive aspect comes into picture. I don't know whether anybody knows about the Bourdieu paradox, the Bourdieu ass kind of thing. I don't know. It's where that's called the rationality model, where it's called the perfect rationality kind of thing, where you need to know, differentiate between two things to exactly decide that I want this and not this. So as computer system, what it needs is it needs a perfect identification as to, by some way or the other, based on the data that is available and the reasoning models or algorithms and deep learning systems and all, it needs to identify by some way or the other that this is better than this. Then only it can decide. So the Bourdieu's as problem is that a donkey is kept in front of a pail of water and a heap of grass. This is equally hungry and equally thirsty. So it is put in front of them. If the donkey is perfectly rational, so then it will neither drink nor eat. So because it doesn't know what is true. That's what the computer does. Computer does, which cannot decide. So then you see that round thing that is happening, and then it will just halt there. So, but a human mind can always do an intuitive thing that even if, now I know that there are two options, both are equally good and equally bad, but I will take some decision definitely. But a systems model can never take such a decision. So coming back to your thing on where we started and where we ended now is like, we all started with, I don't know how many of you are from the engineering side, you learned about the linear programming problem, LPP, the assignment problem, and how many of you have, and that generation, the transportation problem, and yeah, you were there, of course. All our extras. Oh yeah, I see some hands there. Where you have the transportation problem, where you have that objective function to be designed. So we all started from there, where we take decisions based on an assignment problem, or you have some number of warehouses, number of trucks available, destinations. So you choose the model. So from there it came to the analytical tools like the AI and ML, and now we call the Gen AI. See, Gen AI is not generation AI, it's a generative AI. So in the Gen AI, it's not, I don't think it is, when you look at the transformation path, Gen AI is not, kind of, hierarchical thing that, it came saying, but it's a variation of this where you use the AI models to generate some images or text or whatever. So that is the evolution that has happened over the period of time. And I think further on when we discuss, we can pick it up. Yeah.
Definitely. So from an industry change perspective, Jacob sir, if you can add your thoughts on how media industry has adopted these changes over these years. And especially nowadays, people talk about replacing editors or replacing journalists with AI. So Mid-Journey, all those tools. So your thoughts on that? On how you have seen how manual operations with respect to printing has happened, the paper blocks and all those manual acting. Now, a lot of adoption, things have changed. And a typical example as a media, how see.
Thank you, Georgie. First of all, unlike the other panelists, I haven't got any other job, so I am with that company for last 3 decades. They are smart. So I think apparently he was saying that, and if you don't have a brain, you can stay with the organization for long, right? So anyway, jokes apart. So we have seen many changes happening in the media industry. So media industry started probably in a primitive way where, we have made lead blocks where the printing, typesetting happens to the newer generation. So we have done a lot of changes in the automation space. So I was talking that, few years when this buzzwords of automation came in itself. See, actually we gone for a lot of automotive practices. When the whole big paper rolls, which comes in, which is used to print the newspaper, this was taken by the robotic process. So this robotic process take the paper rolls and it goes to the respective printing process, load itself. Then whenever the charge goes, it goes to the charging station, then it gets charged. So these are the automations then we started with. Then we know
so that replaced a lot of people who were doing manual job with respect to
we had very heavy people who were pulling the rolls and loading it. So those jobs, obviously it's their jobs lost, and we have trained them to a different task.
They were redeployed.
As an organization, we don't send people, so we retrain them to a different job profile. So that is what happening. So like that, then on the commercial side, again it happened with RPA, and a lot of process took automation. So there also we could save a lot on the efficiency and in terms of performance. When it comes to generative AI or this particular term, so we actually see a lot of changes happened in the news making process. So there was a recent survey, 49% of media organizations or the 49% of the news which is generated across the globe uses AI. And by 2030, 90% of the news will be generated by generative AI.
News will be reported or news reporting will be done by?
News reporting will be done by generative AI. And there are a number of areas where we can use these kind of newer technologies. Like you said, Mid-Journey is one of the example. Mid-Journey is something which is, I don't know whether anybody reads newspaper today from this particular lot. If you have seen a newspaper 2 days back, so the whole page was done in Mid-Journey. So Mid-Journey is not that way easy as we say. You have to give a complex prompt, then only it gives the right results. So the prompt itself is pretty big, and you will get ready prompts from the net. Then you have to customize and then prompt it as per your requirement. So what I want to tell you is, typically a page would have been done by 7 or 8 artists from morning till evening. Using the newer technologies, we could do the same thing in a matter of 3-4 hours. So that much of work optimization can be done. So the same, one of the things which when I was talking to an artist, probably will replace all of you with this. So what they have told me was, the whole concept of basic creativity, overall the page, how it should look like and what all elements has to be there, it has to be decided by a human. So that creativity cannot be overridden by artificial intelligence as on today. So when an ANI comes, artificial natural intelligence comes, we don't know. Probably the panel discussion would be done by robots.
Probably. So that is the belief and hope that we all have.
Yeah.
So just taking an example, typically what we hear is, from a technology perspective or from an IT perspective, there is a lot of discussions happening on what are the implications or which are the different job roles which can be either replaced or enhanced, or where there can be a potential impact when it comes to when we adopt more of AI or Gen AI. But what we hear is, when it comes to job roles which need creativity or the intuitive element, so that is where we need we might have like, at least for the near future, we will need human beings there, right? But
yeah, that is true. So to answer some of that particular point, we thought the anchoring requires a kind of a human touch. I think many of you would have already seen a couple of videos, and you would have seen a couple of TV shows that anchoring is done by a AI
in a much better manner.
in a much better way. So even if you use Vertex or even Bard for that matter, text to speech, earlier it was just done by a Montaigne way, and now it actually gives a human touch, like, giving proper emphasis at the places where it is really required. So the technology is maturing day by day, so that those kind of things are happening in much better way. So on those kind of, say, anchoring doesn't, I won't say that it doesn't need a kind of a intelligence. It needs an intelligence when it comes to a kind of a interrogative journalism. So if I want to interact with you in a different way, like a couple of our anchors does, then I don't know how far AI can help. But as on today, on a normal reading habit, so it can help you. And moreover, see, giving a news to a disabled person, like, if he can't see, we can read the news for him. At those kind of area, AI is much better tool.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So most of the cases which we use right now is, text to speech is one area. So if you want to really read a particular novel, so in our weekly is actually doing the same thing. The whole weekly, earlier we deployed people to read the weekly in such a way that, okay, it will be read just like a story. And instead of that, now we are using AI to do that.
As you rightly said, anchoring, taking an example, anchoring definitely reading out, like, just instead of just text to speech conversion. So anchoring definitely needs a lot of other elements. Typically, like, it has to be based on context. The anchor cannot be reading news on Chandrayaan landing on moon, in the same tone, where definitely there is an element of excitement, in the same tone, reading news about a natural calamity which has taken the lives of many people. So definitely the context and all those elements need to be considered when defining the tone. So definitely technology will have, will need some more time to catch up in ensuring that all these contexts are analyzed and the right output is given.
No, one of the problem is with most of the LLM models, this is based on practices. I mean, whatever data we give. So one of the challenges which we feel in the field of news is, if you give a wrong model or a biased model, so any news generated out of this also will get a biased feeling.
Absolutely.
So, but we use this in different, TV. So where a lot of pre-production and post-production works can be automated. Earlier we used to create a larger site to create TV serials and other things, which can be automated using AI. So you don't need probably the cost can be reduced to reduced drastically. And even you can create better, clear scenes, and even the whole scenario can be recreated. I think in Avatar, I believe it was used. And even in radio also. So creating a playlist based on people's emotions. See, we have radio in through the online as well. So based on each time period, we can analyze a mood analysis of which are the songs being requested. Same thing can be given for actual online radio also. So in many of the scenarios, this will add a lot of insight, and it will give more benefit to the organizations.
Got it. I think media is one space where there is more of excitement than fear when new technologies come in, because the one is okay, manual efforts are going away, but the efficiency with which things are being done in a much better and more quality manner, especially those areas, when it comes to Gen AI, if it is able to generate content which simulates, ideally, okay, if that's a human with a certain element of capability doing, then that is something which will add a lot excitement when it comes to this particular industry, which is touching a lot of people.
One more use case is, we do a lot of translations. Being a Malayalam vernacular daily, so those translation earlier, people used to do it. They sit and do the translation. Now we don't have to. And
it's done automatically. So those people who were doing that before are now able to do their time in doing more creative way. So actually, the editors or journalists, they have a lot of quality. And earlier their quality was actually not utilized for creating quality content. Obviously, quality content cannot be created using AI as of now. So they can enrich the content on a content 360 way using their caliber. So the mundane task can be done by AI. Got it. When it comes to banking, on a note, if Rip Van Winkle was a banker and slept in 1990 and woke up again back to the same job in 2020, there is absolute difference between what used to be done in 1990 and what is there now. So you have seen a lot of changes in the banking industry over these years. So how do you, and definitely a lot of new adoption happening in your organization. So.
Yeah, thanks, Georgie. Since you brought the Rip Van Winkle context, as Balakrishnan sir was mentioning, I joined banking in early 90s in a public sector bank, thankfully, because there was no automation, nothing. And I keep saying my folks that I became stronger in banking because of that experience, because in those days, we used to have almost 50 big ledgers, like what Jacob sir was mentioning in terms of the paper rolls getting pulled out. Each time a transaction had to happen, somebody had to, really literally bring that ledger down with a lot of force. So you become very stronger in banking in that sense. Those were the days when there was nothing. Then we had the automation. See, I personally feel that there's a lot of comparison with what has happened in the OT space, the Industrial Revolution 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we are talking about 5. The web space where we are talking about Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3. Very similar changes are rapidly happening in banking space. We are not isolated. And the big difference in banking is that we are not really too worried about the physical aspect of any type of service. Today, from the days when everything was done in a manual manner, every bank in the country today boasts of digital transaction percentages hovering around 95 to 98%, which essentially means that out of all the 100 transactions that happen, 98 is done through a self-service digital mode, not even an assisted mode. Rajan sir today morning was telling all of us about the UPI story, 100 crore transactions happening in a month with a target of 1 billion a day. So all this entire revolution has meant that there is a lot of automation that has to be there, obviously, but the parallel aspect about banking is around the trust. And the trust is eroded when we have customers losing money. Naturally, they lose faith in the bank and in banking as a whole. Now, that's the space where there is a lot of innovation that is happening, because in the milliseconds that you get to process a transaction, can I identify a genuine transaction vis-a-vis a fraudulent one, which is a challenge which is of a higher order. There is technology. It's not that the technology is not available, but the sort of ingenuity with which the fraudsters are actually, attacking the systems, be it at a systemic level, at a bank level, or at an individual customer level, there is a lot of evolution that is happening. Conversational AI has been there in banking for the last maybe 5 to 10 years, but that was mostly based on NLPs and static kind of responses that the banks used to give to the customers. Honestly, if you ask me, that has not been a channel which is very popular in banking, because beyond the basic services, a customer wouldn't want to interact very long on higher order problems. What is the kind of investment that I need to make? What is the kind of loan advices that I would seek? So beyond the conversational bit, which is primarily for basic information and for conducting minimum transactions, the higher order activities are still done in a digital mode though. However, it is topped up with a lot of human interventions, human interactions primarily. And that's where now we have upskilling our staff. Entire staff across the bank is getting upskilled to take care of this change that has happened. When I joined and when I interview people, the conversations was around what is banking? Banking is transactions. Today we need to tell them banking is not about transactions. That's gone. It's about sales, it's about service, it's about support and deepening the relationship with the customer. So with generative AI coming in, it's going to be a completely different world order, is what I personally believe in finance too.
And the adoption is something which is inevitable, because the world is moving that way. It is inevitable and we have to adopt it. And definitely as the technology service providers within your respective organizations, I'm sure a lot of initiatives are already taken by you. You are already on the way with respect to the adoption. So what are the different challenges that you guys face with respect to skill or talent or technology or tools?
See, as far as AI, forget about generative AI, even with AI, there are a lot of challenges that we face on a day-to-day model. I mean, there are various deployments that have happened. Conversation is one thing, fraud detection is another thing, underwriting is a third thing, where we build data models and predict the probability of default and all of that. The key things that comes to my mind immediately is, one is around the whole practice of privacy and ethics. I think this is something, because all of us are custodians of huge amount of data, and it is our responsibility to ensure that we use that data in a meaningful manner. Now, if you look at ChatGPT, for example, ChatGPT is actually based on a stochastic algorithm model, not on a deterministic algorithm model, which essentially means that many of us who must have tried out the same query to ChatGPT maybe more than once, it is quite possible that you get two different answers. That's because of the randomness that is thrown in the stochastic algorithm, which is missing in deterministic, because that's used for other purposes. Banking till now has been relying primarily on deterministic model because apart from the ethical aspect, where, as sir was mentioning, the chances of bias and discrimination is very heavy. In fact, I was actually reading something up where the increase in the number of parameters in these models, ChatGPT 3, I remember, was something like 150 billion parameters. 4 is on 1 trillion. But I think it was a study done by Stanford which said that the bias percentage has not come down. It has increased to 28%. 28% is a big number. So the advancement of the technology is not reducing the bias or the discrimination, and being a heavily trust-based institution, we cannot afford that. Second part is regulation. The typical part about some of these algorithms is that it is a black box. It's a black box algorithm that we are looking into. And when the parameters itself is not known, how can a regulator actually take a call on whether the bank has actually used the prudence and is it as per the regulatory norms by giving a loan to Georgie and not to Jacob? So, I mean, this is basically a problem that exists as a challenge, which we'll have to, auditable AI and all of that is what is coming in. And with generative AI coming in, that's going to be another big challenge. Skilling of the staff and of the customer is also extremely important. Since we are in a cybersecurity conference, today, the huge amount of frauds that are happening at the customer end with phishing, etc. Just imagine the level of exponential, victimization that could happen with ChatGPT getting used by fraudsters, which is happening. I was telling Georgie earlier in the morning that when we used to talk about phishing, sir, we used to say that you should watch out for spelling mistakes and all those chotu-motu things, which gives you an indication that this is indeed a bot or maybe a illiterate guy who is trying to defraud you. Today with ChatGPT, I can pose a question to a particular bot which says, please send a mail to this customer with an IQ level of 200. And at the same time, I can also say, send a mail with an IQ level of 50. And it's going to send the same content in a different manner so that the recipient is going to be fooled. So that's the third area where we will have to do. The skilling part, as all of them were mentioning, is a big challenge. We'll have to actually, the entry-level jobs, folks, are gone. So Sreekumar sir was mentioning intelligence is probably, but that is, the converse is also true. I mean, if you are not intelligent enough, you're not going to get those jobs anymore. So a lot of reskilling is needed in that segment, in finance and in banking technology.
Thank you so much. Sreekumar sir, if you can add your thoughts on how typically, like your organization, definitely you are supporting customers from various domains. Right? Technology service provider perspective or enablement perspective, what are the different tools or different technologies that you use in terms of enabling your customers with the new technologies, ensuring that their business is more successful and leverages on the generative AI?
Since you talked about generative AI specifically, I'll touch upon that as well because, more in banking space or in other tech spaces, the AI, traditional AI, not traditional, the existing AI ML models where for decision making and actions thereof, those are also equally pertinent. But since the topic today is on generative AI, I'll just stick on to that. See, generative AI is basically unlike the traditional AI ML thing where it's about reasoning, analysis, reasoning, and then an action thereof. This is about generating something. So there are three types of things as it stands now. So these all are evolving. Like we are if you look at the hype cycle, we are just starting off the hype cycle. So it's lot more to go, and you don't know where it's going to end. So, but where we are now, as far as what generative AI stands today, it's about text processing, it is about image processing, video processing, and some more extractions of that. That's what is basically happening. So, when you're talking about what we do, So, there are two things. One is there are already generated Gen AI offerings, which is available by various, like OpenAI is there. Then you have the Microsoft Copilot. How many of you would have used Microsoft Copilot? Microsoft Copilot, anyone has tested it out? Okay, Microsoft Copilot is something where, it's an offering by Microsoft. It's in the pilot mode still. It's not on the commercial thing. It is where, like supposing if I have gone on leave for 5 or 6 days, and then I came back, so there will be maybe hundreds of mails in my this thing. There will be a lot of documents that was within that. So then I would write a query on this, like, as I think Jacob sir was mentioning, these are days when you need to know how to ask the questions because somebody is going to answer. I have so many people to answer, but if I don't know how to ask my question, if your question is not right, the answer is going to be definitely wrong. So you need to know what query you are going to put. So the query generation is what is going to be very important. So I come back to my office and I state a question saying, see, look, I have got so many mails now, so please give me what are the important things that I need to do for the next 4 days. Then this fellow will go search all my mails, and then with various algorithm, deep learning technologies, now it automatically sends you to, okay, you have to meet this fellow because he has asked you to do this, because it looks at the history of what is important for me, what is not important for me. It has classified all this. It gives you a text of this thing saying, what am I supposed to do? It gives me a charter of this thing as to what is the essence of all the mail that has come in the last 5 days to me, and then it'll tell you, okay, you had a mail from this fellow, we said about this. You had a mail from this fellow, you need to act on this and reply on this immediately. This is very important. So now you have to generate this thing. So this will give you this is about the Copilot thing, which is already there. More than that, like what Jacob sir was mentioning in the media or from any other domain, you have tools available, like, he was mentioning about Mid-Journey. Okay, Mid-Journey, then you have the, stable diffusion, and then you have deep brain. So these are all technologies or frameworks that is available for you to create. So Copilot is also created using some of these technologies there. So these technologies are available for you to create your own AI models using, it's all using the data that you already have. So it extrapolates the data, takes it, does the reasoning himself, and then creates these kind of things for you. So these kind of technologies are already available, but what I always say is that, see, look, in any decision, a good decision taken. So because, this fellow gave me something, maybe it's a good decision, but a good decision does not necessarily guarantee you a good outcome. So because, okay, it doesn't really say that, this outcome is going to be equally good. So the decision making, again, you will have to do an intuitive thing on this to exactly pick up from that, what is that you need to do in those things. So a lot of technologies are available. Again, people who are I think many of you will be on the software field where the GitHub, which is there. So Chat GPT, again, Copilot, Microsoft Copilot has got some, they have adopted something there in the GitHub where it helps you to pick up the right module for you from the GitHub. So these type of evolutions and use of technologies are available, which we use extensively in our organization also to develop, AI models for different domains.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
As a closure note, if we can give a 1-minute note on how, like on behalf of the CIO community, how you see the future is.
Future of what it is. See, the thing is, as I was saying, that the human element of this is very important. So as we stand where we are now, this is all about the data which is already there, the algorithms that you put in, the amount of intelligence that you create in it. So one thing which I wanted to tell you is that these technologies that I mentioned earlier about Mid-Journey and all those stuff, like the stable diffusion and all, these are all pre-trained models. It's called, I think you need to note this word, which is called pre-trained models. So now you have the latest one in that is called the pre-trained transformers. What is a pre-trained one? See, many of you must be owning a pet at home, a dog or something. So I don't know, you must have trained that dog to do certain things, like not to do potty somewhere, has to only do potty there, and going to the next level, even the police dogs are trained to detect, a bomb or some things, or now you have the even the pre-trained models for the cameras, the surveillance cameras, where if it is in a jewelry, there will be no security watching the screen. It will tell you when there is somebody who is coming to steal a gold. It will identify, and based on its mannerism and all, it's able to detect, and it will tell you that, hey, look, this fellow is likely to come here for some malicious thing or something like that. So those are the kinds of things that is happening here. So those are the evolution stages that is happening. But all said and done, generative AI, when it can change to creative AI. So generative AI is creating something out of it. So it's not creation. So you use a human element, how much human element you can bring into this, like the metaverse. Like, so you create avatars. Like, I see a lot of youngsters here. So, sometimes you want to create like your girlfriend as an avatar, and then you can chat and dilly-dally with the girl and all this. So these are all possibilities that comes in, and then we are getting closer of a virtual world to a realistic world. So when that happens, yes, we may have to wait for it.
Thank you so much, sir. I know we are running short of time, but can I, if anybody from the audience want to ask your questions on related to this, to the CIO sitting here. I think we are good there. Thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful insights on how the technology is evolving. Definitely a lot of, as we started our discussion, there is an element of fear as well as an element of excitement. But as a closure note, I think the future is going to be bright with respect to how human life is changing and what the changes that technology is bringing into our lives, the level of efficiency which is bringing in. So if like n percentage of employment are lost, definitely there is n x percentage of value which is getting added to it. Sir, you wanted to add something?
No. The thing is, I was thinking, so the number of days to develop a program or a particular package is also coming drastically due to this. Most of the coders, they use a lot of models from all these, and the kind of development cost of particular package can be drastically reduced, and the time also can be reduced.
Anybody from a software sales or software sales background here? Okay, I think that's a word of caution on what Jacob sir has mentioned here now. Adapt well, we have to adapt.
Yeah. One important point is decision making is at different level are different. For example, it is like our hierarchical pyramid. As we go into the top and taking a decision, it need not be always logical or data driven or a particular pattern driven. There can be event driven or a point of inflection or something like that. There I have doubt. Then I raised my hand when he talked about the news. I would like to add that I am afraid. I am really afraid of creating news. And in a post-truth society, from lot of fake, if you create a news and everyone start believing it, then we are in a danger zone.
I just want to add to that because, today's newspaper, we have published a photograph of Rajinikanth. So actually, using any tools, we couldn't identify that it's a fake photograph. So the technology is advanced in so much that, it is very hard to identify whether it is fake or genuine. So trust only companies who creates trusted news.
So tomorrow, when we read our newspaper, definitely we have to take it with a pinch of salt.
No. That's why I said trust only company who is in business doing that only as a trusted news.
There is an element of branding there. Thank you so much, sir.